morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Friday, the 15th day of September, year of our Lord 2017. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Okay, purple tip of the day. I want to encourage all of you to learn about EMP, what it is, what it can do, what it cannot do, and learn how to protect your equipment, which would be electronic equipment, water pumps, motor vehicles, and so forth. If you want to learn more about EMP, there's a link on my website. We've got the report of the commission appointed, the scientists and engineers appointed by the government to look into what EMP can and what it cannot do and how to mitigate. It's a free download at my website at thelibertyman.com. We had a terrorist attack earlier this morning, in case you're just getting up, in London. The subway in London was attacked with what's described as a bucket bomb, an explosive device that injured 20-something people, including a couple of children, many needing hospitalization. There's no fatalities, not expected to be any fatalities. So let's pray for the rapid recovery of all those folks. We have a patient waiting in the green room, my friend Tom Berryhill. Tom is a very accomplished RF engineer, a licensed ham radio operator for more than half a century, manufacturer of the energy cleaner, all-around great guy and man about town. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, John. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Really good. Are you calling on Skype by any chance?
No. Why would you think that?
Well, it's really
sounds better.
Excellent. Did you finally get rid of that $10 telephone from Walgreens?
No. This is a $5 telephone from a flea market years ago, a rotary dial. Every once in a while, John, it's, for anybody that uses very old telephones, I actually like them the best. They're heavy duty and they last. Take the handset and just bang it against the floor once in a while. It loosens up the carbon granules in the transmitter. That's an old trick, yeah. And the same thing with everybody sees the World War II war movies and all that, and the pilots have that throat mic. Same thing. Those are all carbon microphones, and the carbon granules get jammed up, and it starts sounding real bad.
Well, that phone you paid $5 for, if it was built and retailed new now, it would be considerably more money, wouldn't it?
Well, I guess you'd have to look at the inflation calculator. It's hard to say. I worked on telephone systems years ago, and I know the equipment was expensive. They weren't that bad, but I'd say in the 1970s, maybe this is what's called a 500 series telephone set. The one I have is made by IT&T, and I would think in the 1970s, when this one was made, it was probably around $30 or so.
Right. With the telephone company in St. Louis graciously rented my mother-in-law a telephone for a monthly charge for many decades.
Yeah, people didn't really pay attention to that because it was such a low price. What did they charge? Maybe $1 a month or something, but they had the phone for 40 years.
Yeah, well, it was, I believe it was more, I don't have the dollar amount in front of me. My wife, Dr. Moore, is probably listening. Maybe if she remembers, she can look. They probably still have those records. But when I saw that, it's only been, I guess, 8 or 10 years ago, I was amazed that there's still such a thing going on as renting a telephone from the telephone company. That was an amazing thing. Well, Tom, we're going to talk about EMP this morning and electromagnetic pulse. It's something that I would say less than 5 out of 100 adults in this country have a clue what it is, and maybe only 1 or 2 of them really have anything close to a comprehensive understanding. On one hand. On the other, it's something we need to know about, isn't it, Tom?
Yes, it's very crucial. It could be valuable information to learn about this and protect electronic devices. Now, one of the biggest problems would be anything that has an outside antenna, like a television set, any kind of radio equipment, ham radio equipment, two-way radios, anything that has a large exposure to the radiated field, which the antenna would present to that equipment. So, and what do you do for that, John? Truthfully, I don't know exactly, other than to just disconnect that equipment when it's not being used and keep it totally shielded and grounded. And we can talk more about the shielding methods. I've learned quite a bit about that over the years, and I've seen what works and what doesn't work, and learned a few tricks that will help. And it's just a lot for discussion.
Well, that's why we're here, is to learn a few tricks. Well, we need to lay a foundation here first about EMP, what it is. And first of all, there's two different kinds. One can be a natural event, energy coming from the sun. It's called a coronal mass ejection. The other can be a man-made event. Primarily, we're concerned about a man-made event in the form of one or more nuclear devices being set off in the upper atmosphere, 30, 40, 50 miles up in the upper atmosphere. They both have similar qualities, but there are some differences. The natural event from the sun could be possibly more dangerous than a man-made event for the following reason. The energy from the sun, a coronal mass ejection, can actually go around the planet, where a man-made EMP can only go line of sight. So it cannot go over the horizon from wherever that device might be. So let's start from the beginning. 1859, something called the Carrington event, named after the scientists who figured out what happened. A coronal mass ejection hit planet Earth, 1859. The United States at that time did not have a power grid, but we did have a fairly substantial telegraph system east of the Mississippi. Those telegraph lines acted as antennas to draw in that signal and start fires in the telegraph offices. The barbed wire fences that the ranchers had acted as antennas to connect to concentrate that energy and cause fires. It's estimated, Tom, that if a similar event happened again, it would pop and hit the western side of the planet, the western hemisphere. It would knock out the national power grid and causing massive issues and of course, the loss of millions of lives over a period of about a year or so. Very, very serious. Now, the man-made events from a nuclear weapon, that's a clear and present danger also. And I should mention before we get away from the solar matters too much, that it is inevitable that at some point in the future, a coronal mass ejection will hit Earth directly with enough power to knock out the power grid for whatever side of the Earth it hits, and possibly the entire planet. That is certainly it's an inevitable matter. And in fact, in 2012, that very nearly happened. We dodged that bullet. It's kind of ironic, Tom, that we've had some evidence about the possibility of man-made EMP in movies going back decades, such as the wildly popular TV series America, spelled with a K, in the mid-1980s, where they depict the United States having been taken over by Russia and invaded by Russia and conquered by Russia. They never say what caused that to happen, but the book, by the same title, does. You know, in the prologue of the book, they say it was an EMP, which is a free download on my website, by the way, Tom. The most recent version of Red Dawn, they use an EMP attack on the United States. So it's out there in modern fiction, and hopefully that would not become reality. Tom, you're probably aware that North Korea has 2 satellites that on a polar orbit that go over our country twice a day.
Well, we've spoken about that privately, John, and you filled me in on what you knew, so I am aware of them. I don't have a lot of expertise on that subject, but I would think they could deliver some some goods that we wouldn't be interested in.
Right. Well, there's speculation about what's in those 2 North Korean satellites that travel over the United States every 12 hours. But that's all it is speculation. Maybe they are up there for legitimate, peaceful purposes. That certainly is what we hope. But on one hand, on the other, we do know that North Korea is a country that has the ability to fabricate nuclear weapons, including hydrogen bombs. So hopefully it's peaceful, but we simply don't know what's in those 2 satellites. The estimates, Tom, of what would happen in a nationwide power grid outage is that 9 out of 10 Americans will be dead the first 12 months from drinking bad water, starvation, disease, and violent confrontations with criminals. About as serious as it gets, isn't it?
Yes, that combination would be very serious. I'm glad I don't live near a large city, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
I know, John, that is a huge part of preparedness is getting out of the city as far as those things go. You know, one time years ago I went to a seminar in St. Louis when I did live there, and I remember the fellow that it was about preparedness. This was in the mid-1990s, and I remember he started the seminar with the 3 most important things that everybody should do. And I remember him saying, some of you will not like this, but this is the way it is. He said, number 1, get out of the big city. Number 2, get out of the big city. And number 3, get out of the big city. And everything was tailored around that. So, yes, the big cities are not the place to be. And, of course, you know, John, in our discussion yesterday privately, I mentioned I prepared for my family maps that allow them to get to where I am and not even get on any major roads. They could take side roads, back roads, all blacktop, by the way, and maybe a few shortcuts on some gravel roads, but travel the distance required and never be on a main highway. And I think they would have a pretty good chance of getting here. I've actually traveled those roads, so I know that they exist. They're well maintained, or good enough anyway. It would be safe passage out of the major metropolitan areas.
Well, the commission appointed to look into these, what would happen. They were given enough money to test pulses on cars and trucks up to a certain point, but they were ordered to not do such a strong pulse against these vehicles that they could not be easily repaired and resold. So they were cutting corners financially. When I interviewed Dr. Peter Pry a year and a half ago, that's what and he's the head of the commission, by the way. That's what he told my audience, is that they did not have sufficient funding to test a full pulse against these motor vehicles. When you read the report, it makes it look like we're going to be okay, that it would only be minor problems such as ancillary things such as the electric windows may not work. But we simply don't know what a strong pulse would do to modern vehicles. The consensus is that any vehicle made since 1973 would be at risk of being damaged or destroyed and not working. So if you want to have a vehicle that you know for sure is going to work, if it's built in 1972 or earlier, it's probably going to be okay as long as it hasn't had any upgrades with modern electronics, which a lot of these hobbyists do that, don't they, Tom?
Oh, they really do. You know, the modern cars today have so many electronic sensors, the computer system, and you know, John, you mentioned the electric windows, the power windows not going up and down. Looking at wiring diagrams for various cars I've had over the years that did have power windows, I noticed that would perhaps be the safest thing because they just connected straight into the battery and there was no electronics involved other than to just work a small DC motor that drove the window up and down. But today, it wouldn't surprise me if everything ties in through the computer system in the cars because a lot of the cars you just touch on the driver's window especially, you just touch it momentarily and the window will retract all the way down automatically. Now that has to have some electronics to make that happen. So no doubt that it's tied into the computer system of the car. So now that presents a problem and your comment about the windows not working is very valid. An older car, they may still work, but it's the electronics in there, the sensors, and it's I would think the main item would be that computer system, the computer unit that runs the ignition, and I can't think of what
they run everything.
But it's I've had to buy a couple of those things. They're all over the place, but the ones I bought were around $300 a piece, and it's not something you want to do all the time, and it's certainly not something that you're going to do when you're stranded alongside the road after an EMP strike.
That's right. Well, motor vehicles is something that it gets people's attention, and they want their vehicles to run on one hand. On the other, a nationwide EMP event would mean no more fuel for years probably. So whatever fuel you got is the fuel you got. The odds of getting more fuel after the event are pretty slim, to say the least. But that just having a motor vehicle to make that one run out of the city could easily be a matter of life and death, couldn't it?
Very true. Very true. And I know you have one particular older vehicle that was converted to ignition points so that it was the old mechanical system. Distributor, I don't even think it has fuel injection, does it?
No. My Dodge van, I had a Dodge Specialist bypass or eliminate everything that had a transistor, resistor, or diode, everything in there. So it's basically the same as it would have been in 1972, despite being a 1988 Dodge van. So yes, and that's, it's not much to look at, but it does run.
Yeah, John, the only thing people should consider when converting these cars like that is the alternator, because that does have diodes in there. The alternator on an automobile is basically a three-phase alternator, so it puts out three phases, and they are rectified where it changes the AC signal to DC by some large diodes, and then there's many times a solid-state voltage regulator circuit that's integrated inside. It's inside the alternator itself, and that's where the smaller wires plug into the side of it, and that maintains the voltage. What could possibly happen are those diodes, those large diodes, could be wiped out, either shorted out or opened up to where they're not doing anything anymore, just rendered useless by an electromagnetic pulse. That would make the alternator either not work or just load the battery down so heavily that it would actually drain the battery quite rapidly, or even cause a fire in the car. I know some of the alternators will have what's called a fusible link in the output section. In case there's any short or anything like that, it opens up. That would be good, especially if you have a relatively large battery in the car. You could actually run, well, not with headlights, so at nighttime it'd be a little bit different, but you could run quite a while just off the battery itself to get to where you needed to go and get out of harm's way. So
I've done that, yes.
So have I. Yes, I've had alternators
in the daytime,
go out.
It's not bad. You can get a good 50 to 75 miles with no lights running. Here's our break. We'll be right back. J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at the Friday, the 15th day of September. I want to let everybody know that our friend Tim Spencer, his show is on Saturdays from 10 a.m. till noon. Next Thursday, Tim's having his left leg amputated below the knee, and family does need some financial support. If you go to Tim's website, ruralsurvival.info, that's ruralsurvival.info, you'll scroll down the right side, you'll see a place where you can make a donation to help Tim's family as they move through this family crisis. Okay, we're having a discussion about EMP here on Republic Broadcasting this morning, what it is, what it can do, what it can't do. Tom, according to the report, and I'm encouraging people to read, simply disconnecting any electronic device from the power grid and from antennas will provide a lot of protection for that equipment. I'm sure you're aware of that, aren't you, Tom?
Oh, sure, and that makes a lot of sense, and it's just a good thing to do. Anything that's very sensitive, such as computers, maybe you have some sort of your television sets, any kind of radios. I do that with my ham radio equipment, John. I always disconnect the antennas when I'm not using it, and I actually have an antenna switch that will do that, and it will also ground the antennas if required, but I don't even rely on that. I disconnect the antenna completely from the system. I don't want to take any chances with that. And again, the power grid is a huge area of exposure for that energy pulse. So not being connected to it will help, and not being connected to an outside antenna will help. So the less exposure that equipment gets, the much better its chance of survival.
Yes, absolutely. So it's a good idea to, and I know lightning is a related topic. It's a good idea to disconnect. If there's a thunderstorm approaching, I unplug everything that's important because there's really protecting equipment from lightning is not easy and not fail-safe, is it, Tom?
No, it's not. And as a matter of fact, for my shop equipment, I have a disconnect that just totally disconnects the whole building from the electrical power. So when I'm not out there, I just pull the lever. I just turn everything off. It's totally shut down. I don't have to worry about anything that will heat up and cause a fire or any kind of problems like that. I don't like to have equipment running unattended. Some of the equipment I use has large heaters for molding the plastics and all that, and you don't want to forget and walk away and leave that go. So I get some safety from doing that, and that would protect that equipment as well from an EMP. Plus, it's a metal building, so that helps a little bit.
Right.
In the house, I do some of the same things. John, what I worry about more than anything in a lightning storm is the well pump. I actually have a disconnect system on the well pump, and I turn it off when I'm not here, and I turn off the power to the well pump anytime there's a chance of any lightning strikes. Because that pump is so deep in the ground and well grounded, it's a really attractive path for any surges like that. So I just get it out of the circuit all the way, and that I've never had a problem because of that.
Right. That's a heads up for everybody, and that's something I need to remember to do myself because of the vulnerability of that equipment and how so disruptive it is not to have your drinking water and hot water under 40 pounds of pressure. I've had to do that a number of times, and it's just no fun at all. So that's a good heads up for everybody that has a well, is to disconnect the power to that well when there's a thunderstorm. Here's our bottom of the hour break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. I've worked with men and women involved in the high-end shelters for years. With the Ozark Survival Homestead, you get things you don't get with the high-end shelters. You get a opportunity to be in the bunker, of course. You also get a home, a 60 by 90 lot. You get your storable food, your livestock share, your garden, greenhouse share, your seed bank share. One person to have everything they need, right at $25,000. For a family of three, $37,000. You really need to check this out. It's very unique. At my website, you'll see the Ozark Survival Homesteads on the left side of my homepage. Go there, read that one page, fill out the form with your name, your email address, and your telephone number, and I will forward that to the guys and gals at the Ozark Survival Homesteads. Check it out. You'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 15th of September. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Many of you have discretionary time you use to watch television shows, to watch films, movies. Well, when you're doing that, pay attention. Keep your eye out for images of continents with new coastlines. It's something that's a fun project. We've had a number of listeners doing this. We've got a long list and growing of films and TV shows showing images of continents with new coastlines. Even magazines. We got the oldest image we found in 1952, Look magazine. All those images are on my website at thelibertyman.com. If you find one in a movie or a TV show or a magazine, get that to me. As a thank you, you get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs as a thank you. And it's a fun project. Also, my website are energy cleaners for sale. It is a healing device. It's not the silver bullet. If you think you can keep eating beer, pizza, and ice cream as the 3 main food groups and be healthy using an energy cleaner, well, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to make lifestyle changes. Give up the tobacco habits, the alcohol addiction, the drugs, tobacco, whatever it might be, and eat properly, and use the energy cleaner. All those things work together to have a healthy lifestyle. Check out the details at my website. The energy cleaner is only $285. You can read up on the patent application right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads that go with the energy cleaner. It's a great combination. Most people are getting their mattress pad right when they get their energy cleaner these days. Don't forget, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee on the energy cleaner. I do. That's from me to you personally. And it's only $285, shipping included to American zip codes. I have a toll-free order line. Keep in mind, I do take PayPal, MasterCard, and Visa. And, of course, checks can be sent to my address at thelibertyman.com. Toll-free order line, here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Tom Berryhill, we're talking about electromagnetic pulse and how to mitigate, how to keep equipment safe. Well, Tom, I have a backup power generation here at my place, and we're making, we have, I should say, plans to make it EMP resistant. It's hard to make everything EMP proof, but we'll be doing the best we can to protect our backup power from EMP. And of course, the topic of Faraday cages comes up real quick, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And my thoughts on generator systems have always been maybe a small, very small metal building. You see them at the various stores. They'll sell almost like a small outbuilding to keep your lawnmower in and your garden tools, things like that. And not all of them, but many of them are made from the sheet metal. So if you had a small sheet metal building like that you could construct at ground level, you could house the generator in there, and also maybe keep your lawnmower in there as well. Drive a 8-foot ground rod into the ground right next to it, and connect that ground rod to the metal shell of that building. That would work quite well. It wouldn't be perfect because there are some air gaps. If you want perfect isolation, you would almost have to use solid metal foil or something and completely cover the equipment and ground that. That's not always real practical to do, but I really feel that one of these smaller metal buildings would be an excellent way to shield something like that. Now, another thing you can do if you just want to shield the generator itself, say like mine's behind the house, you could just build a 2x4 frame around it and simply just use sheet metal screws and attach the galvanized metal to that. It doesn't have to be the corrugated type, just something to form like a large tin can around that generator. So that could be done, and that would help quite a bit. So just some ideas for thought there.
Right. Well, those are good thoughts, and people need to pay heed and take action also, because in the absence of action, well, nothing happens, obviously. It's not hopeless, though. Equipment can be protected and ready for use in the future if you do take the time and properly protect it. And it doesn't take a whole lot to protect it. It takes something, but not a whole lot. There's always simple things like nice, clean, new galvanized steel garbage cans with a nice, tight-fitting galvanized steel lid. If you're going to go that route, you want to ground it. An 8-foot ground rod is excellent if you can do that. In my parts of my place here, Tom, you'll hit solid rock about 4 to 5 feet down. But a ground rod is good, and you need to insulate the electronic device inside the galvanized can so it doesn't touch the metal. You can use cardboard, an old blanket, whatever it takes to make sure that the electronic device does not touch the galvanized steel, right, Tom?
That's correct. Of course, if you just have the equipment in a cardboard box, and maybe perhaps a shipping box that it came in, that's form fitted to that equipment, just keep that box handy, put the equipment back in its own shipping container, and just stack it up in that can. I have a setup like that, John. I actually bored a hole through the basement floor. I was telling you about that yesterday, and drove an 8-foot ground rod. I was lucky I didn't hit any rocks, and boy, we were in a rocky area around here. But I was able to drive that rod in. I used almost like a jackhammer type of unit I use for breaking up concrete. I used that to drive the rod down in. Because of the limitation in the height of the ceiling, I couldn't get in there properly. So to do all 8 feet of that, I've got about 6 feet of that rod going through the basement floor, and then it was a 3/4 inch hole. And once I got the rod to the level I wanted, then I filled that hole full of epoxy, and that sealed it. I was more concerned about water coming through that hole than anything else, so I sealed it with epoxy, and that took care of that, and it never had a leak, and it's been like that for over 10 years. Right.
Well, epoxy is a marvelous thing to use for all kinds of applications. If you got a question or comment, give us a call at 800-313-9443. A lot of my portable small stuff, Tom, I use Halliburton aluminum cases, and then, of course, insulate the equipment so it doesn't touch the aluminum. And that's a handy thing because I can pick them up and carry them any place I want to.
Yeah, those cases are excellent. And when you can find them on the surplus market, it's a good idea to grab them. They're not cheap. They're pricey, but boy, they are durable and they last forever, and they really protect the equipment if you're hauling things around. They're very rugged, and of course, they're metal, they're aluminum, and that will be an excellent shield. So it would make a great way to store any sensitive electronic equipment and make it very portable at the same time.
Okay, we got a caller on hold here. We have Chris in Las Vegas. Good morning, Chris.
Well, good morning, John and Tom.
Morning. What's on your mind?
Well, I thought I'd add a little to your conversation. I am a competent electrical professional from the IBEW 357 near Las Vegas, although politically assassinated. And I happen to know that in sandy, loamy soil is not generally very conductive and lending itself well to grounds, that they've done some testing here in our area, some of the engineers of the building department, and they established a Uford ground, essentially a concrete encased electrode, 25 foot of the associate appropriate size grounding conductor, buried 2 to 4 feet in the ground, encapsulated in concrete. Doesn't hurt to urinate in the hole to augment conductance prior to putting the concrete in there. And then, of course, bonded to your metal building or your other grounding implements that you want to tie to above ground will do an adequate job of supplying a very good ground in moderately conductive soils. Also, I have had the experience of working at some of the secured areas of the Nevada test site and higher technology of crypto rooms and things of that nature, and have installed what's called counterpoise grounding systems, which basically induce the grounding aspects and gather the air currents, which transmit the same charge of the air to the ground, creating an effectual shield or dome of protection by charging the ground the same polar as the air is, therefore deflecting perhaps lightning and maybe EMPs also from the area.
Well, if that's possible to do, Chris, that would be a good thing. If you think about it, when there's a difference in voltage level, that can allow currents to flow, and perhaps maybe even with lightning strikes, that perhaps would help with that, because it would everything's at the same potential level, same voltage level, and I can envision that being very helpful. Yes.
Well, the engineers out there, they're pretty high level. They certainly grasp the concept that like charges repel and opposing charges attract, which is the premise that the counterpoised or alternately posed charged land and structures operate under. And it does make sense, and some of the extensive measures they take to do some of these advanced intelligence and electrical theory projects are pretty intriguing to be involved with, and I am pretty blessed to have had some of those special experiences and like to share the knowledge with those who appreciate it and can benefit some real appreciable benefits from my knowledge being granted to them free of charge just from the grassroots. But thank you so much for the great conversation this morning.
Okay.
Always
Thank
appreciate
you, Chris. We appreciate the call.
You bet.
Okay. Well, Tom, we need to emphasize how this is truly a clear and present danger. We've had, if you want to read it, there's probably 200 books of fiction written about the consequences of EMP hitting this country. One of the earliest and one of the best is titled 1 Second After. 1 Second After. The introduction to the book is written by Newt Gingrich, who's a friend of the author. Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the House, 2 heartbeats away from being President of the United States at the time. He's testified before Congress, sworn testimony about the clear and present danger EMP poses to the United States of America. It's kind of ironic, Tom. The money it would cost to protect the entire national power grid, eastern, western, and Texas, is the equivalent of less than 2 B-1 bombers. About 1 1/3 B-1 bombers, cost-wise, would be enough money protecting the entire national power grid, which is a good analogy because out of the 100 B-1 bombers that we have, about 10 have been used to blow up people in the Middle East. The other 90, they keep nice and shiny and polished up, sitting for Lord knows what. So it would seem to make sense, wouldn't it, Tom, to spend the equivalent, 1 1/3 B-1 bomber, dollar-wise, to protect the entire national power grid? Wouldn't that make sense?
Well, that makes a lot of sense, but we don't. I'm not so certain about what their true intentions are. So there's definitely been not much done in that area, John. We're very vulnerable at this point. And I really think it's on everybody's shoulders to take care of their own situation themselves to the best of their ability. It's not an expensive thing to do. And if you wish, we can discuss some ways to make some very efficient Faraday cages. It could even be a business for somebody. They're not hard to do. And when I can describe it, John, and people won't hardly believe it because it would be so economical to do. We can talk about that if you think it would help.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and describe it, Tom?
Okay. Well, yesterday when we met, John, I talked about the RF cage that I used to have. It was like a small room. It was 8 by 10 feet, and you could walk in it and stand up. You could have a desk in there, and it was used for calibrating and testing very sensitive. Excuse me. It was used for testing, calibrating very sensitive electronic equipment. They had to be totally isolated from any other outside interference, transmissions from radio stations, cell phones, everything. So the power that was even supplied to this room was well filtered. Of course, most of your listeners are interested in protecting their equipment and not so concerned about powering it up while it's inside of this shielded enclosure. So if you did have to power something in a shielded enclosure, that opens a huge can of worms. It can be done, and to quickly describe that, the system that I had, it had what's called a Pi network, which is a very it's a low pass filter. It only passed the 60 cycle power that was needed to power the equipment, and everything above that was attenuated. Very shortly after getting past 60 cycles, everything dropped off to nothing. This RF screen room had 120 decibels of isolation from the outside world. Now, most of your listeners will talk about power and transmitters and so on, and a generator, kilowatts and things. And this is all measured in decibels, and that scale is a logarithmic curve. When I do rough calculations on decibels, John, I remember two numbers, 3
right.
and 10.
Right.
For every 3 decibels of attenuation or loss, you lose half the power. For 10 decibels of loss, you lose 10 times the power. So with those two numbers in mind, you can get very close to approximating what the power is that you have left over. Now, 120 decibels isolation is an incredible amount. It takes the signal down to practically nothing. So
right.
The way this room was constructed, it was really nothing more than 2x4s. They were cedar. They were very nice and planed and not rough cut or anything like that. And it had a bronze type of, it might have even been copper, but I believe it was bronze for a little bit extra strength. But it was, it looked like window screening. That's all it was. And it was stapled to the inside and the outside. And we'll continue on when we come back.
We'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. All right, we are back. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 15th day of September. Tom, we got about 3 minutes here to talk about EMP and get the word out.
Okay, well, I'll finish real quick on this Faraday cage, a do-it-yourself type. Aluminum window screening works perfect, John. It works great. What you want to do is build a frame big enough to hold the equipment that you need. I would use 2x4s, and then it's just a very small container, size of a trash can or bigger if you'd like. You could even build a frame around your existing metal trash can if that works. But you simply line the inside of it with window screening and the outside of it with window screening. And then you only bond the two screens together in one corner, in one spot. You don't want to bond it all over the place, just in one spot. That way, the outer shield that might let a little bit leak through is further attenuated by the internal shield. And when shielding is bonded in more than one spot, you'll end up with ground loops that can induce currents, and that could sometimes make it worse than not having anything at all. So it's best to just bond it in one corner, in one spot, and then that bonding spot can attach to a ground rod. This is very simple to do, and it will give you nearly that 120 decibels of isolation. I've done it, I've tested it, and it works quite well, and very inexpensive to do.
That's good to know, because money is always an issue, and knowing that people can accomplish their goals in a very economical manner is, it's refreshing to know that people can do that, Tom, and very good.
I think a relatively small system that's big enough to store your sensitive electronics, things like that. I think you could build this for less than $50 if you have the tools and the abilities to do it. It could be constructed for less than $50.
Outstanding. Well, it's very helpful, Tom, and hopefully people will pay heed and move forward to implement a way to protect their sensitive electronics so that after an EMP or a coronal mass ejection, they'll be able to have some communications, hopefully have some water, have some a little bit of electricity, and be a bastion, a place where maybe some essential supplies could be stored in a refrigerator that otherwise would go bad. It's all a win-win situation if people could do this, isn't it, Tom?
It truly is, and anybody that wants to get creative, they can build these RF shielding rooms and containers in all different shapes and sizes. It's left up to your imagination. Just keep one thing in mind. If you use window screening or any kind of metal sheeting, just use 2 layers, but keep them separated from each other a short distance, and then bond those 2 layers together at one location and connect that bonding location to your ground rod. That will give some tremendous isolation, and any electromagnetic pulse would be greatly attenuated, and you'd stand a much better chance of your equipment surviving that attack.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You're getting the information you need to protect your equipment right here. Tom, thank you. Have you back next Friday.
Thank you, John.
Okay. We got top of the hour break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right. We're back. It's on the second hour here on Friday, the 15th day of September. Still waiting for Dr. Myers to call. He has not called yet. If and when he does, we will have Dr. Phil Myers with us, and we'll talk about health-related matters. Always a fun time to talk to Dr. Myers and learn new things. Proper tip of the day is to educate yourself about what EMP is and learn how to mitigate EMP, electromagnetic pulse, so that if and when it would happen, you can still have running water, a few lights, and some communications equipment and a way to run your furnace. So check it out. The full report is a free download at my website at thelibertyman.com, the report of the EMP Commission. We do have a patient waiting in the green room, my friend Dr. Phil Myers, D.C. Dr. Myers is a chiropractic physician living and working in my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. If you want to get started on a road to optimal health and well-being, integration of mind, body, and spirit, well, all you need to do is call his office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation, and that telephone number is 314-878-6868. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, John. How are you today?
Well, if I felt any better, it wouldn't be legal.
Oh, it is in some states.
Yeah. It's a beautiful sunny day out there, 68 degrees, and life is grand. Doctor, I've been following your protocols now for a number of years, and I've been continuing to notice how I can do things that even 15 or 20 years ago I couldn't do, such as read printed material without glasses. That a number of years ago I could not do that because of deteriorating eyesight, but my eyesight's actually getting better thanks to nutrition, the counseling that I get, and it's fun to.
Don't forget the adjustments.
Well, and the adjustments are all part of it. Yes, sir. It's fun moving forward and being able to have all the energy I need to do the things I want to do and accomplish my goals. And I want to encourage everybody to please consider moving forward yourself to recover lost energy, recover lost health, to have energy you may have thought you would never have again. People get stuck in a paradigm, don't they, Doctor, where they think that this is the way it is, it's never going to get any better, and that's what people frequently believe, don't they, Doctor?
Oh yeah, I was just talking about that, like literally before I picked up the phone. That what it is a disbelief about your own ability. We actually just don't believe that we can do things, that it's literally an impossibility. And the thing is, a lot of it comes from the fear, but the fear of the unknown, the fear of letting go, the fear if I do something different, that the outcome will not be fruitful, that it won't bring about a good result, because there's so much fear and so much worry and so much anxiety about it. And what you're needing to do is literally break an old belief pattern. But you have to remember this and know this for our first-time listeners. That belief system came at a time in your life when you were so small and a brainwave development that was resonating certain brainwave frequencies, that when information came into you about whatever, it was quote-unquote hypnotic. And it gets immediately downloaded into your system to show you that this is how you handle this environment. And you then end up having a body reaction and an energy about that, which keeps the brain developing at that level of thought. And then you end up putting more thought patterns together and more beliefs about it, and then a huge story about it, and then eventually comes into play the biggest fallacy of them all, is that this person, this thing, this event, or my own self-image of who I am is the problem. And they're the problem for my situations in money, in job, in my finances, in my career, and anybody that I ever loved or communicate with, including my own self. And we end up blaming everything on them, because what we do is that whole energy system projects like a projector screen into your mind's eye that person, place, thing, or event, or self. It projects their image, like their face, their voice, their behavioral pattern. You might even see the house that they were in front of, or the actual playground or office space that it actually happened in. And you'll catch, and if you start doing this, when you start doing the work, you start catching yourself actually being able to hear yourself communicating with this voice in your head that is telling you that this is the problem, that this is the opinion, that this is the stance that you should have about this particular event. And what that does, the biggest thing about it is, like I said, it happened at such an early age. What it was utilizing was these deep neurological reflexes that are designed for your protection, growth, and development. What happens is when we live the big fallacy, instead of growth and development, it stays locked into protection. And the more you live the fallacy, the more you live in protection versus growth and versus growth. So as people start trying to let go or change their life, they run into this resistance. The resistance being that protection mechanism that says, if you let me go, you will not be safe. You will not be, this will not bring about a good result. Because, look, man, I'm here to protect you. I'm here to keep you safe, to make sure that you don't die, that nothing bad happens to you. Because right now, we're good. Don't screw with me here. I'm not going to let you let go of me and be possibly hurt. No way, shape, or form is that ever going to happen. And that's what the neurology is saying to your unconscious mind that keeps running this story. It's like an endless loop. And it's an endless loop because the neurology stays retained in the lower brainstem levels. So just think about right at the nape of your neck, right where the skull meets the neck is the brainstem. That's where all your sensory and cranial nerves and motor nerves are. It's at that junction that you go from an anatomical standpoint or a physiological standpoint, the reptilian brain and the higher neocortex, or i.e. the prefrontal cortex. And so this neurology gets retained in that lower brain center. It doesn't kick up into the higher prefrontal cortex brain centers. It stays retained. And in a retained system, it's an endless feedback loop that never changes its story. It's the same signal, same feedback. Same signal, same feedback. You might add a different person, place, thing, or event to that, but it still stays the same story all the time. And it's the ability to transcend that, to break that cycle, that allows you to realize that the result, the end result of letting go of that belief system will truly bring about greatness in your life.
Well, it's a leap of faith. It's scary. It's scary. It's scary.
Very.
And it takes courage to do these things. And you have to have faith in yourself, faith in the practitioner you're working with, that no harm will come and that there will be benefits. Right, Doctor?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the best ways to do that is to recognize that you're going to do this freely. John's not making you do it. Dr. Phil is not making you do it. My teacher, my mother, my brother, my sister, my cop, whoever. No one's making you let go. You will be doing this freely. So to actually say to yourself, I freely let this go, is a wonderful first step. You totally put your mind's eye attention to letting go of the whole opinion, the whole belief structure, the whole reflexive system that's stuck in that endless loop. And you do it with your entire being, body, mind, and soul. You do it faithfully or with focused intention, to stay focused and single-minded in the task at hand is the most important part of the free and total. You must keep it single-mindedly focused on that task at hand, to let go freely and totally of that system that is continually feeding you in that endless feedback loop. And you do it, and here's the last part and the most important part of all, is you do it knowing that it will bring about wonderful, abundant results. Freely,
well, that's the goal.
Totally,
that's the
faithfully,
goal. Right.
and fruitfully.
Right. That is the goal. That is the goal. And it is these things. The healing process is going to take place if people begin. But that beginning point is the single most difficult thing for people, is to even conceive that it can happen in the first place. Right, Doctor?
That's the free, total, faithful, fruitful. The biggest fear of them all, like I said, these belief structures, these physiological, these body, the tight neck, the tight back, the butterflies in your stomach, the weakness in your knees, the soreness in your feet, the tightness in your hands, the grinding of your teeth, the squinting of your eyes, the scowl on your face, the humpness of your back, the collapsing of your chest. I mean, you can go on and on and on. The headache in your mind. You can go on and on with the symptomatologies. But all of those are connected simultaneously. It's not either or, it's and with at the same time. What came first, chicken or the egg? The answer is yes. Is you have that physiological response, and then you also have the mind energy, the opinion about the whole thing. David Hawkins, in his books, coined the phrase positionality. And when you hear him talk about what positionality is to have a deep-rooted opinion about something and hold a position about it. A physical, body, physiological, biological stance about that opinion that you hold in mind. And so it's an encompassing word called positionality. And so when you go back into the total sense of free, total, faithful, fruitful, you're totally surrendering all of it. You're feeling it by mind, body, and soul. You're feeling it in the thought patterns. You're feeling in the contractions of the feet, the contractions of your hand, the contraction of your face, the shortness of your breath, the high resonating breath response versus the low abdominal spinal breath response. It's that phrase and that working of it totally that overcomes the fear that if I truly let this go, that it's not going to be good.
Right. Yep. The fear of the unknown. It can be overwhelming and stifling, and that's how most people, most of the time, live their lives. Unfortunately, don't they, Doctor?
It's called the fear paralysis.
There we go.
And we've been talking about these reflexes. One of the reflexes is actually called the fear paralysis reflex, controlled and worked with by the vagal nerve, cranial nerve 10, the part of the brainstem that controls 98% of every digestive, hormonal, energetic, thymus gland, thyroid gland, pineal gland, heart rate variability, digest of that burger that you just ate, absorbing of that water that you just drank, helping you go to the bathroom and evacuate toxins. 98% of all of that is controlled by the vagus nerve. And 80% of the sensory feedback return, So we all get 100% return of the information in the body up into the system through reflexes. 80% of it is coming from the vagus nerve. So if you're living in the fear paralysis of the vagus nerve, you're going to live an extremely oversensitized life. Everything is going to irritate the system. Light, sound, taste, touch, hearing, vocal cues, or whatever is going to keep the system in high adrenaline and cortisol responses. When you learn to freely, totally, faithfully, fruitfully let go of the fear, you transcend it.
Here's our break. We had a call numbers 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 15th of September. I just got noticed that Republic Broadcasting has a funding page on RBN updates. Tim Spencer is having his left leg amputated next Thursday below the knee, and the family does have some financial things they need help with. So at Republic Broadcasting's website under RBN updates, that's where you can make a donation if you choose to. Visiting with Dr. Phil Myers. If you want to get started with Dr. Myers, by the way, he is my personal physician and has been for a number of years. Pretty simple. Just call his office, set up that first private no-charge consultation. That office telephone number is 314-878-6868. Doctor, you're offering some classes. Tell us about those classes and where people can find out more information, if you would, please.
More information, you can definitely just go to my website, which is lagiana.com, LAGIANNA.com. Go under Life Classes and my blog. You'll also see the radio shows that John and I do that will allow you to tap into the ones that I really liked. It was like, oh, my God, that was a great show. We edited it down and made it a little shorter for people to listen to. So there's availability as well. The classes are my way to help people heal yourself. It's great to have a practitioner that can do work on you, but eventually the work that, for example, I do on you is all about empowering you to do it yourself. Well, eventually people need tools. So I can't teach you how to fish if I don't give you a fishing pole or some bait. So this is my way of giving you that fishing pole and bait. The classes are designed to incorporate every and all different healing techniques, whether it be chakra balancing, acupuncture, meridian tracing, body awareness and a movement flow, meditation, learning mindfulness techniques, diet, nutrition, essential oil smells, what's going on in the cosmos at the time to know that, man, this would be a good idea to do this, that, or the other. Every class is different, and every class builds upon you. So it's not that the classes build upon each other. Like if you miss one class, then it's like, oh, my God, when is that class going to show up again? The classes are designed about you. So the more you learn about you, the better. So it doesn't matter if you learn about your big toe first or your head first. You start working on your big toe, you're going to work on your head. You start working on your head first, you're going to start working on your big toe. Because you are a tetrahedral grid of energetic potential coherently resonating at the highest vibrational frequency of potential energy. That's who and what you are. I can say that again. That's who you are. You are this amazing, energetic, physiological, biological human that is just so cool. And you're not just body parts and skin and fashion, electrons and neutrons and protons, but you're this amazing energetic source that shows up as a vibrational resonant frequency. And the more you connect your system to that vibrational frequency within your own self, the more you can transcend all these amazing. So you get to transcend anything that's holding you back. You learn to tap into your truest potential. You learn to tap into the knowledge that you're supported in every single way, shape, or form, that everything and anything is abundant in your life and completely shows up. And what happens, and this is the cool part, is and the more you do this, it stops becoming Dr. Phil blowing smoke up your ass. It ends up becoming something that you really experience as real and something true, good, and beautiful that shows up in your life because you manifested it and no longer needing to be it was funny. I was listening to oh God, I just forgot his name. Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, amazing comedian. We know all about his movies and funny stuff like that. But what most people don't know is he's an advocate of mindfulness work, an advocate of spiritual questing and spiritual journey work. And he was doing a conference or a talk, and he yells out, he was talking about how we create our own world, and everything that's happening for you is happening for you and not at you or to you, and that everything around you is happening because you're seeing it this way and that you created it. And he calls up the person in the back row of the last seat in the last place, and he's talking to this person in this entire huge amphitheater. And he's just like, and this is true for you. Now, why you gave yourself that seat, I have no idea, but you created this. And it was really funny.
It is. Hold that thought. We have a break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
And gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. I've worked with men and women involved in the high-end shelters for years. With the Ozark Survival Homestead, you get things you don't get with the high-end shelters. You get a opportunity to be in the bunker, of course. You also get a home, a 60 by 90 lot. You get your storable food, your livestock share, your garden, greenhouse share, your seed bank share. One person to have everything they need, right at $25,000. For a family of three, $37,000. You really need to check this out. It's very unique. At my website, you'll see the Ozark Survival Homesteads on the left side of my homepage. Go there, read that one page, fill out the form with your name, your email address, and your telephone number, and I will forward that to the guys and gals at the Ozark Survival Homesteads. Check it out. You'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 15th of September. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Interesting free downloads there. There's a book that I think you'll find helpful regarding health and well-being and attitude and setting and achieving goals. The title of it is The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. It's a short book. You can read it in a couple of 2-3 hours at the most. And I read it at least once a year. My personal copy has highlights and tabs to help me find things that I want to go back to very quickly. I think you may find it very, very helpful. Free download at my website. Also on my website, something that will help with your health is something I use every night. That's my energy cleaner. And you can get your own energy cleaner. Only $285 shipping included. If you have arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, it will probably help. We have pretty much 100% success with arthritis pain. Not getting a great night's sleep? Yep, probably help there also. So check out the energy cleaner at my website. Read up on it, the patent application. You can place your order right there for your energy cleaner and your mattress pad to go with it using PayPal, MasterCard, Visa. I do take checks. You want to send a check? My address is right there at my website. And I have a toll-free order line. Here it is, 800-592-9543. Don't forget, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee on energy cleaner. At toll-free numbers 800-592-9543. Visiting with Dr. Phil Myers. Dr. Myers is easy to get started with. Doesn't cost a penny. All you do is call his office, set up that first private no-charge consultation. That telephone number at his office is 314-878-6868. Let's continue, Doctor.
You have this amazing potential. And let's go back a second, and let's bring this back into some physical evidence in some way, shape, or form. There's a a biologist, a cellular biologist. A lot of your listeners should know the name Bruce Lipton. If you don't, please look it up. Bruce Lipton, Lipton, wrote a book called The Biology of Belief to get this information out there. And what he discovered in his work as a cellular biologist that basically ousted him from his tenure at the University of Wisconsin.
That's pretty serious. That's pretty serious.
He had tenure. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. But he went against the accepted standard message, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. And all he said basically was it's the environment that controls the biology of the genetic expression of your cell. That's all he said. And he proved it.
Yeah, and he proved it using the scientific method that was observable, testable, repeatable.
Observable, testable, repeatable. And at the time, the science of the time, the everybody was saying, no, it's your genes. It's the nucleus of the cell that controls the expression of the body. And he's like, no, it's the environment that does. And for example, he took a stem cell, which is the cell in your body that can mutate into anything, and he put one in a petri dish with a certain environmental culture, this with another environmental culture, and this with a different environmental culture. The same stem cell in 3 different environments, one created bone, one created muscle, one created a ligament.
And once again, observable, testable, repeatable, but the traditional science at that time said this can't happen.
Exactly. And
even though it does in front of witnesses.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
I know. So all of this stuff that he said builds upon the work of, at the same time, around the same time period, Candace Pert. And any of your listeners who Candace Pert is know where I'm going. Any of you who don't, read her book. Her last name is Pert, P-E-R-T. She's dead, so this is going to be her only book that will be out in the world. It's called Molecules of Emotion.
Okay.
And what she was looking for was the receptor site on our cell, which is the receiver-perceiver that Bruce Lipton talked about in his book, Biology of Belief, that gets the signal from the environment, opens up a secondary messenger to allow basically a lock and key mechanism to come into the cellular matrix, unravel the protein DNA sleeve on your genetic code, and activate or synchronize your genetic code to resonate a frequency towards health, movement, well-being, expression, growth, whatever. And so she was looking for the opiate receptor, and in her quest to find the opiate receptor, she was utilizing this knowledge of Bruce Lipton to find the receptor site on the cell that actually connects to your endogenous, or what that means is your own body's ability to create a chemical, meaning you don't need opiate from the outside world to make you be something. You already have it within you. You already have the receptor sites for you. And she talked about how all of our system is, with all of the receptor sites on it, are literally hardwired for bliss. Hardwired. And not software wired like we talked about with those reflexes. I'm talking hardwired.
Right.
That we are a blissful being. So what does that mean? It means that if you're not living in bliss, you are living the lower reflexive, subconscious, unconscious belief systems living in, like, for example, that fear paralysis reflex that we know is linked to the vagus nerve and does all that stuff we talked about before the break.
Right. Well, Molecules of Emotion was published in 1999. Used copies are available on Amazon for $10.45. And the subtitle is The Science of Behind Mind-Body Medicine.
Yeah, exactly. What year was that?
1999.
99, folks. We're almost 20 years into this, where this is when these books were published. So you have to imagine the book was published in 99. Also, Bruce Lipton was around the same time. I think his was like 2000, 2001 or something like that. And you have to imagine there was years before the books were published that they were discovering this stuff. And it wasn't discovery that made it true. It was already true. It's just the discovery that made it aware. We've always had these things. It's like when I was talking about cranial nerve 0. What's cranial nerve 0? Well, cranial nerve 0 is another cranial nerve that literally lives in the location of your pineal gland, that gland in your system. Well, the thing is, we just discovered, it's been discovered for years, but it's now becoming conscious in awareness. But you've always had it. It may give you an answer that, oh, well, this nerve really exists, but so you have a heart too, and knowing that you have a heart doesn't allow you to use your heart properly, does it?
Right.
Everybody knows they have a liver, but how many people still binge drink and destroy their liver? But you have a liver and you know what it does. Everybody knows that exercise and eating right will bring to a healthier lifestyle, but how many people exercise and eat healthy? Knowledge does not necessarily make any difference.
Well, it does, you're right, and the older you get, the more you come to realize that is absolutely true, Doctor. So this whole thing, so the world, so we know that it's the environment that controls biology. So what are we surrounded in? If you look at the makeup of the universe, the biggest molecular structure, especially like within our cell and our intercellular environment or extracellular environment, is water. And water isn't just a medium where life lives in and does its thing, but they've actually shown, again, in research, in laboratory studies, that it's the composition of the water molecules itself, the vibrational frequency, radiant vibration that water molecule has, that is the signals that are picked up through the receptor sites on a cell that open up that key, the lock and key mechanism, that unravel the protein sleeve on your genetic code to change or express the DNA, RNA systems of your genetic makeup, which is powerful beyond measure and has, like Candace Pert says, is literally hardwired for bliss. And if you're not expressing that in your life, you're living stories. Now, here's the thing, guys. We are all living stories. Every single one of us is living these software programs that run our lives, that we let run our lives. Here's the thing, though. A lot of these software programs, again, like I said, were developed at really early stages of life through these neonatal reflexes. The neonatal reflexes are the hard wiring that basically builds the software of the system. So to collapse it, tapping into these reflexes is the most important aspect, because it's the reflexes themselves that you're either going to run the bliss program
or the software program of fallacy. Joe Dispenza, in his book, and I can't remember the name of his book, Joe Dispenza is a chiropractor and neuroscientist, a lot like me, who was interviewed in the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? I highly recommend reading this book or watching this movie. It is an amazing movie. What the Bleep Do We Know? And
his book is titled Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One.
Yeah. So what he's talking about in this book is getting your reflexive system, the hardwired reflexive system that's connected to the hardwire for bliss genetic code that you are, and changing the story, the software belief program, so that reflexive hardware, actually the belief structures, mirrors and is coherent with the resonant frequency of your hardwiring system that Candace Pert said that you are hardwired for. And here's another cool part. In the same movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? The book is called The Miracles of Water. I cannot remember the guy's name, but it's called The Miracles of Water. And what he showed is water will take on certain crystal forms based upon the information that is in contact with. So, for example, they had the same water source in one container and in another container, container 1 and container 2. Again, reproducible and scientifically method process. The beaker 1, they gave love to. They wrote love on it. All they did was support, love it, love it, love it. And the beaker 2, they wrote hate on it, and they hated this thing. They gave as much hate possibly to that container of water, as much as possible. When they took a crystal analysis picture of the water molecules in beaker 1 and beaker 2, beaker 1 looked like a beautiful snowflake. Beaker 2 looked like the green glob and Slimer and Ghostbusters.
The title of the book is The Miracle of Water by Masaru Emoto.
There you go. When did that come out?
February 2011.
Okay, 2011. So his work was in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, which was out in the early 2000s. So you have to understand that this information is free-flowing in the universe. It is around, and you guys are listening to it on this show for the first time or for the 100th time. And so this information's here. But what's the cool part is, what did we say? Water is the medium, or is the substance that controls the genetic function. And we know that water will take on the coherent vibration of the energy that it is surrounded in. And so you put emotions, thoughts, and belief systems and coherent vibrational frequencies in the presence of water, that water will take on the same vibrational frequency and structural kinetics as the frequency of what caused it.
I've read that book. It's a marvelous book. Here's our break. We'll be back. Stay tuned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 15th of September. Doctor, What the Bleep Do We Know was released in 2004, by the way.
Okay, 2004. Okay, yeah. So all of this information is out there. And just so you know, so much stuff is going to happen from a technological advantage for ourselves and a spiritual advantage for ourselves and an awareness and advantage for ourselves that it's going to be the equivalent of everybody today only uses rotary phones. That's all people know. We don't know what a cell phone is. We don't even know what a wireless phone in our house phone that uses a landline is all about. Have no clue. All we know is it's a rotary phone. And by, I'd say 2020, it's going to be the equivalent of us flying cars.
That's only a couple of years away, Doctor.
That's only a couple years away. The jump is going to be that fast. So much stuff is going to come down the line of what's possible and what's available. And here's the thing, folks. It will follow every single thing I just said on today's show.
Well, it's going to be an interesting 2 or 3 years ahead of us, isn't it?
It's going to be an awesome ride. Like, literally awesome. And the more you tap into this field, the more you are going to radiate this vibrational experience in every single cellular molecule of your entire body. Just know this, your brain, your central nervous system and systems like that are literally 80% to 90% water. You want to change the neurological expression of your body, change the vibrational frequency and coherent resonancy of the water molecules in your body. You are literally hardwired for bliss.
Would the binaural beats help change that frequency?
Yes, binaural beats. Well, it's not going to be changing them. It will amplify their coherence to their truest nature.
Right.
And so, but yeah, binaural beats will help. And like I said, that's what all these classes that I'm doing for. You need to know the techniques to amplify your own software program to resonate with the true hardware. The more your body's resonated with the hardware, the faster and more vibrant your healing journey will be. The less it is, it's still going to be awesome transformation. Because you're going to be learning to surrender and let go, and it's going to feel amazing. It's like, oh my God, I let go of that. Oh my God, this came to my life. Oh my God, look at this. This is so cool. Oh my God, I've lost the weight. Oh my God, I got the job. Oh my God, I got the loan. Oh my God, this thing came through. It's like it's just going to happen so fast and so quickly. The more because when you're hardwired to, when you're softwared to the hardwired system, it's infinite. All you live is the infinite potential. Freely, totally, faithfully, and fruitfully, in no way, other shape, or form except in pure bliss. Because that's who you are and what you are. Now, for some listeners, that's going to sound the weirdest thing I've ever said in my life, but go back to everything, a bit of research that we just said that stated this process. And some of you are going to be like, preaching to the choir, preacher, choir, preacher, nice to meet you. Awesome. And so there's so many different people on this planet, but there's going to be a jump so dramatic. It's going to be literally like going from a rotary phone to flying cars.
Well, that's pretty spectacular, to say the least, Doctor. Sir, we're out of time this week. I'll look forward to having you back next Friday. You too. Have a great one. Bye. Okay. That's it for the day. It's it for the week. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaning, your essential oils now while you can. Your firearms ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Have a fun, safe, productive weekend. And God bless America.